So what actually we will be learning in our today's session will be reverse engineering. So basically, uh, the main agenda for today's session is to understand what actually is reverse engineering and how we will be able to go forward and get that particular data from the application code itself. Now, what we had understood till now, right? We had understood many of the vulnerabilities within network, like within the system, within the registries. We had validated how exactly the process will be working. What are the things which we can find within the process? All of those kind of things, right? Now, what we will be validating is within the backend code, right? At that point of time, what actually are the vulnerabilities which we can identify? What are the things which we need to see at that point of time? Now, when it comes to the applications, right? During the first sessions, we had understood that when it comes to the applications, for some of the application where the implementation, right, for example, some of the frameworks can give the full and like full plain text code from at that point of time to us, right? Many times what will happen is the application will not be giving us those specific code. So basically what we'll be able to do is to identify whether there is any skill specific type of data which is available within the application or not within the code of the application. We need to go forward and decompile the code, right? The code of the application, and we need to get that particular data and understand that what actually are the things, whether there is any kind of sensitive data which is available within the code of the application or not. So for this one, what happens is in the normal scenario, whenever we are going forward with any specific type of application, right? As a developer, if developers are developing that particular application, once they are compiling and they are making that particular file as an executable file, what will happen is once that file has been converted to executable file, there is no way from which that particular application can give us the data which has been utilized during the development. So for example, at that point of time, if application might have used some of the function called login function, because of after the compilation, typically that particular data will not be available to us. We cannot see the same code by the application um while compiling, right? So at that like after the compilation of the application, why exactly this type of things happens? Because of the privacy reasons. If anyone as a developer, if anyone is able to see my code, they can copy my code and they can prepare a similar type of application in their own business as well, right? So because of that particular reason, we cannot see that particular things. So to get that particular data, now again, for our security purposes, we require that particular data and we need to identify that what actually is the data, whether there is any kind of hard-coded details or not. All of those kind of things we need to understand at that point of time, right? To do that particular assessment, what we'll be doing is we'll be decompiling that particular code and we will be validating what actually are the things which are happening at that point of time. So in this scenario, what will happen is basically at that point of time, how exactly this decompilation process will be working in the backend. What will happen is now whenever there is an executable file which is in the execution stage, this data will be going to our CPU, right, where the process will be the code and the instructions will be executed. CPU will be getting those specific code, right, in a binary language, right? So basically it will be zeros and ones. Now CPU knows that what actually is the code which is available. What we will be doing is we will ask CPU that, okay, whatever you are getting the processes and all of those kind of things, you can compile it. It is not an issue for us. But parallelly, what you can do is you can give that particular details to us so that we can review it as well, right? So directly we cannot jump back and we cannot take that particular code, but this executable file will be executed by CPU, and CPU, we can ask CPU that, okay, whatever you are taking up, whatever you are processing, just share the specific copy with us so that we can review the same thing. So at that point of time, what CPU will be doing is CPU anyhow will be able to process the binary language. It will not be able to directly process this kind of .NET code, okay, or any kind of C, C++, all of those kind of things. It will not be able to process. What actually it will be able to process is the binary code, right, which is zeros and ones. So at that point of time, what will happen is basically it will be able to go forward and do that. But our tool, right, our decompiler, what it will do is it will take all zeros and ones, it will go forward and it will be giving us those specific details, right, where we will be able to go for, see that particular binary code converted into assembly level code, and we can review that particular assembly code and we will be able to identify whether there is anything which is available or not. Now, by listening to this particular language, like assembly language, many of the people will be like very much tensed, right? Because this particular language is a bit complex compared to any kind of high level languages which we normally see, right? C, C++, .NET or anything like that. So what we will be doing is basically, first of all, we will be understanding the overview of it, and then we will be seeing that how we can convert that particular assembly level code to our normal high level language, right? C, C++, something like that. And then we will be able to review that particular code as well. But to do those specific things, we need to understand the basics of it, right? And then we will go forward and check for that particular details as well. So for that particular scenario, what we will be doing is basically we will be first of all identifying what are the how our CPU processes those specific type of things, right? And then we will understand what are those specific type of assembly level instructions, and then we will understand how we will be able to get that particular details as well. So now what happens is, when it comes to this particular, first of all, we will understand what actually are the specific data within, or what actually are the things which will be available within the CPU for the processing. And then we will understand how that particular processing will be working. The first thing will be stack, then there will be heap, then there will be our particular RAM, there will be instructions, right? So all of those specific things will be available within our particular place, which will be utilized to go forward and get that particular things. Our CPU will be there, right? All of these particular things will be available. Now, when it comes to the specific memory, right? So basically, when it comes to the RAM will be always utilized by while processing the application, right? CPU will be always utilized to go forward and execute those specific instructions which are available. Instructions are nothing but that particular code where those specific things are available, right? Each and every a line of code is available, right? If we are converting it to binary or assembly level language code, right? So that is what we can call it as an instruction. This is nothing but a specific statement of code. Now, stack and heap will be those specific type of set of memory which will be available to go forward and get that particular data processed. We will understand more in depth within our within some time itself. Registers will be the one which will be utilizing and which will be utilized to go forward and store that particular bits and pieces during the processing, right? So all of those specific things will be working. So now what happens is, when it comes to the specific when it comes to our particular registers, right? So there are majorly 6 types of registers which are available within our particular system. So what actually are those specific things and what are those specific registers which are available, right? So that is what we'll be understanding. The first one is EAX, EBX, ECX, EDX, then ESI, and EDI, then ESP and EBP, right? So these are the main registers which are available. Now, typically what happens is, till here, right, these 6 registers are called the specific general registers. And basically this is the stack pointer and this is the base pointer. First of all, let us understand this particular thing so that we can understand the specific stack and heap, and then we will be able to understand the rest of the registers. So basically, when it comes to stake pointer, typically what happens is whenever we are having stake, right? So it will be taking that particular data for processing, and then once it is processed, it will be popping out that particular data, right? The instructions will be popped in to go forward and process that particular data, and then it will be popped out. So stake pointer will be the one where the current place or current memory which will be processed by the CPU will be stored in ESP. Okay, for example, the memory address which was currently being processed was 0001. Now the next one is being processed, right, which is 0002. This is just for an example, right? So at that point of time, it will be storing that particular data which should be currently going forward and processed by the CPU. Next one is base pointer. So basically within the base pointer, that particular memory address which will be available where the process is getting completed, or that particular process where the things are getting end, and then it will be going forward and it will be completing that particular function. So at that point of time, those specific things will be available here. That memory address will be available here. Whenever stake pointer and base pointer are having the same memory address, our CPU will be able to identify that, okay, this particular function has completed and it needs to be returned to the main statement or the statement which was available previous to that one. Okay. Now, when it comes to EAX, EBX, ECX, EDX, right? These are the specific bits where it can store either that particular instruction or value of that particular instruction or the memory or address which are available at that point of time, right? All the specific things will be also available within this place as well, and will be able to go forward and get the details. Now, how exactly all these particular things will be working together and get that details, right? So typically what happens is, let us go forward and have a very simple program. For example, I am having a variable which is a. Currently I'm not writing any kind of C program, but you can just visualize that, okay, there is this particular C program which will be compiled later on by our machine, right? So for example, there is the value which I am setting up, which is a equal to 10, and then I am setting up b equal to 10, and basically I am going forward and making c equal to a plus b, right? So now what happens is, whenever this particular program is going forward and getting initiated, right? So basically what happens is, the first thing which will be happening here is the specific memory address allocation, right? Whenever I'm compiling. So what actually will be happening whenever CPU gets that particular details, it will be first of all validating how much memory will be required by this particular application to work upon, how that memory allocation will be done. So typically when it comes to that particular our particular address, right? So basically it will be checking how much variables are available. For example, here int is there, it will be taking the specific bytes, right? So at that point of time, how much bytes will be allocated, so that much memory will be allocated within our memory space. So typically here there is 6, right? So 1 will be 2 and 3 2s are 6, right? So basically there will be 6 memory space which will be allocated at that point of time. Now when it comes to this particular program, it will be taking up one by one all of those specific things. So first one will be, now it needs to be processing those specific details, right? So at that point of time, when it comes to the program, so basically it will be having something like the main and those specific type of things, right? So basically here, for let's say this is the main and this is how actually everything is available, and then we will be returning, right? So at that point of time, whenever we will be having those specific details, so at that point of time it will be taking those specific things, right? So now what will happen is basically whenever it needs to be processing those specific things, it will be having that particular data. So now what we will be doing is, we will be going forward and we will be taking up that particular data. So here what will happen is, basically it needs to be stored 10 somewhere to go forward and get that particular process up and running, right? To calculate those kind of things. So it will take one of the register, which is EAX or anything like that, right? And then it will store that particular value. Then basically it will go forward and process second one, and it will store that particular value as well, right? And basically after that it needs to be calculating something, right? So basically at that point of time, it will be going forward and it will be storing those specific details, and there exactly it will be calculating. So whatever is the arithmetic algorithm which is done, right? So those specific things will be available there, right? And that particular thing will be calculated and we will be able to get that particular result. So this is how the registers will be working, right? So all of those specific registers parallelly, the stack pointer will be taking up the memory address, that okay, there is the first particular thing needs to be processed of the memory address where this particular code was available. That particular memory address will be available here. This is the last code, right? So basically in the base pointer it will be available here, and first one it will be having this one. Then once it is processed, then it will be updated here, and then this will be updated here. And both of them, once they are same, the application or CPU will be able to identify that okay, this is the one which is there, right? So basically this is the program where it is completed. So now when it comes to the assembly level instructions, so what actually are the specific instructions which we will be able to commonly see? Now there are lots and lots of instructions, because again the programming language is having much more details, right? So what we will be doing is we'll be having whatever are the common instructions which will be requiring or which will be commonly able to see. Those specific instructions will be able to go forward and understand. The first one is add. What actually it will be having? Basically add will be having two specific type of details, right? So basically it will be having the specific instruction, and then it will be having the specific either that particular of the specific value or that memory addresses which are available. For example, here we will be having add 10 place 20, right? So it will be always A plus B, right? So basically B plus A, it will be likewise. So basically it will be able to go forward and add those specific values. When it comes to the second one, it is having subtract, right? So this is one of the particular assembly level instruction. Normally what will happen is whenever we are having subtract 10, 20, right? So it will be always second one will be subtracted, or sorry, first one will be subtracted from the second one. So it will always be 20 minus 10, right? So basically from the second one, the first one will be subtracted, always like that. Okay. It is not other way around. It is nothing like 10 minus 20. It will be 20 minus 10. Then next one will be compare. So compare is another version of subtraction itself, but it will be having multiple flags. So basically there are three flags which will be available in the compare. Jump, right? So basically jump whenever it will be more greater than 0, or it will be less than 0, or it will be or it will be equal to 0, right? So basically whenever it will be going forward and it will be having that particular instruction. So 10 space 20. So at that point of time, it will check 20 minus 10. So the resultant value is more than 0, right? So basically it will jump to that particular memory address where that particular condition is set up. Now, if it is something like 20, 10, which will be again 10 minus 20, right? So at that point of time, the value is less than 0. So it will be jumping to that particular location where the things are less than 0, right? So likewise, we'll be able to go forward and have that particular three flags within that. And the last one is jump equal to 0. So those kind of things. Next one will be move. So basically it will be having two instructions, the memory addresses or that particular thing, and it will be moving to that particular place. So move and the memory address 1 and the memory address 2, right? So at that point of time, the CPU will be moving to that particular address. So likewise, we'll be having those specific things. We will be having return to go forward and return those specific data, right? Or basically clear out that particular stack and return to the specific main function which is available. Now, when it comes to our analysis, right? Currently what we are having is we are having good amount of those specific tool which will give us or basically what it will do is it will be taking this assembly level code. So first of all, it will be taking the CPU code, right, which will be in the binary format. It will change it to assembly level code, and again the assembly level code it will try to go forward and convert it into high level code as well, right? So at that point of time, what we'll be having is because of the current tool, typically we are having a good amount of functionality where we can go forward and see that particular data in a high level language format itself, which is C, C++, likewise. What happened previously it was very much difficult for us, because we had to review the assembly level code and understand whether there is some specific set of strings or not, right? So those kind of things. So for this one, what we'll be using is we'll be utilizing this tool called Hydra. Hydra is one of the tool which has been available from NSC, right? And basically they have open sourced this particular tool. Here you can see was developed by NSC, and basically this is being used by many of the other teams as well, like within the blue teams, malware analysis team, and those specific were able to go forward and get that like use this tool to go forward and check those things. Now again this tool is
विंडोज में डाउनलोड कर सकते हैं क्या?
विंडोज में कर सकते हैं, लिनक्स में कर सकते हैं, सभी जगह पे कर सकते हैं, जावा बेस्ड टूल है इसीलिए. Okay. So what we will be doing is basically we'll be able to go forward and take up that particular tool. We will be able to see that particular take up that particular code, and we'll be able to see how actually it is working, right? So let us go forward and open the operating system. So I will quickly open. And then we will start up that tool. So again, I am utilizing some another operating system, because the previous operating system which I was having was crashing a lot, and it was not it was having some of the issues which I might be resolving later on once I get some time. So I was having one of the spare operating systems. So basically in that one itself, I will be showing it to you, because here the tools are being installed previously. So what we will be doing is basically, let me just start that particular tool, and we will have a go through of that particular tool, and then we will go forward and identify how we can get that particular details as well. So let me start it. So typically it will be looking something like this one. There it went. Okay, it is loading. Very wait for some seconds for this to load. Yep, so basically this is how it will be looking like. What we will be able to do is once we are opening it, it will, like for the first time, what it will do is it will not be showing us any particular data as of now because we are not having any kind of current projects, right? So at that point of time, what we will be doing going forward and doing is we will click on first of all, in case if there is anything open, we will just go to open. And at that point of time, in case if we are having some specific type of things, we can go forward and do. What we'll be doing is we will go forward and import the file. So this is the option which we'll be having. Now what will be happening is basically we will click on the executable file which we are having, and typically what it will be able to do is it will be able to identify what kind of program is it, okay, and basically it will be taking up that particular file. For my system, actually from my previous sessions, it is having that particular file already available. So yeah, so basically I will just import it. Once it is done, we will click on OK, and it will start importing that particular file. It will try to get all those specific details, right, and will be able to show us those specific details as well. Now it will be checking that all the code do we need to analyze. We will click on analyze, and we will wait for a few seconds. Here you can see in the left or
फाइल कहाँ से इंपोर्ट की?
फाइल हमारी जो थी क्लाइंट एप्लीकेशन थी ना, वही मैंने इंपोर्ट की, मैं बाद में शेयर कर दूंगा। नॉर्मली कोई भी आप हमारी जो थी क्लाइंट एप्लीकेशन की जो EXE फाइल है ना, वो हम इंपोर्ट कर सकते हैं। कहाँ से कर सकते हैं? हम यहाँ पे फाइल पे जाएंगे, यहाँ पे इंपोर्ट फाइल में जाएंगे, तो वहां से हमारा जो ब्राउजर फाइल ब्राउजर है ना वो खुल जाएगा। तो बेसिकली वहां पे हम क्लिक कर सकते हैं अपने फाइल को और वो हम इंपोर्ट कर सकते हैं। उसी तरीके से यहाँ से फाइल पे जाना है और इंपोर्ट करना है, ऐसा। ओके, मैंने एक थिक क्लाइंट एप्लीकेशन को सिलेक्ट किया और बेसिकली वो एप्लीकेशन को यहाँ पे इंपोर्ट कर दिया है, और ये सेम थिक क्लाइंट एप्लीकेशन आपके साथ भी ट्राई कर शेयर करना बता। सो वंस इट इज
एप्लीकेशन सॉरी करो।
हाँ हाँ हाँ, सही सही। सो वंस वी आर डन,
हाइड्रा है ना?
हाँ ये हाइड्रा है। So once it is analyzing, right? So here it will be showing. Now it might take much more time to analyze based on how much size of the application is. If the application is having loads of data, we'll be able to. It might take more time, and if it is having less data, right, it will be less, right? Now what we will be able to go forward and do is basically here, like the assembly level code which I was talking about. That is this particular assembly level code, and if you see, right, definitely anything, if we are not having any kind of prior knowledge in assembly, definitely anything will not be actually in an understandable format for us. Here you can see push, pop, move, right, call, test, and all of those kind of things. Jump if zero, and all of those kind of things. Return is there, and all those things are there, right? But why exactly we are utilizing this particular tool? Because of this reason, right? So whatever are the things which are available here as an assembly level code, though the same things will be available here as a part of decompilation. It will convert that particular assembly level code into an specific C++ code, and will be able to understand that particular thing, right? Now if I see here that, okay, basically these are the variables which are called, and this is the comparison statement, right, and there is something which is printing. So this thing we can understand, right, by reading it, but this thing we cannot understand, right? So again, the prior knowledge in assembly level language is not that much required because of this particular functionality. Now where exactly we need to focus and what actually we need to check, right? Typically whatever the data which we were validating previously, right, so what actually are those specific functions, and what are those specific data, right? Basically that particular data which contains some specific type of sensitive details, admin credentials, some specific type of internal URLs, right, all of those specific type of things, any kind of tokens, keys, all those things, right? During my projects, what I majorly find here in my major projects, what I find is some specific type of third-party API calls. For example, Google Maps API calls, API keys, right? And whatever are the things which services which they are using, and their particular API keys or tokens, right, which are very much sensitive. Why exactly? Because what happens is whenever they are integrating their application with those applications, right? For example, Google Maps. Typically what happens is they will be getting an API key, right, which will be based on the subscription. So at that point of time, if they are using, like if they are making 1000 calls, they need to pay some type of things, right? Some specific amount for that particular 1000 request, right? If they are having 10,000 or 1 lakh, how much are the things which are available? That much things, that much payment they need to do. Now, for example, that key has been phased out, right? Because of this particular, by whenever we are reviewing that, it has been taken up by the attacker. What attacker might do is they can go forward and either sell it or they can use it in their own purpose, right? So at that point of time, they will be utilizing that particular request, but who will be paying? Our the client application, or our client will be paying, right? Because that particular key has been leaked. So those kind of keys and tokens are very much leaked within the application, and that is what the typically we will also be looking at. Internal credentials will be there, internal URL will be there. So those kind of things are very common, and those things we will be looking at here, where actually we need to focus. Now, typically, this is the place where we will be getting all of those kind of things, the imports, exports, functions, labels, classes, and everything. What actually are the imports? Imports are those specific things which application requires from our operating system, the one which we had discussed, right? Operating system DLLs, to go forward and create a window, right, to show the details to the user, right? So at that point of time, to get the details of the user, so it will be going forward and it will be taking that particular DLL files to get the details. So those kind of things will be there. So typically this will be a DLL code itself, right, which will be loaded into the memory, and that is the main reason why it will be showing to us. This is the thing which we will not focus, because anyhow this is an operating system code. We don't want that. We will just close out the imports. Let us look into the exports. Exports are those specific things which will be the resultant value from the application. Those things we will be not requiring. Again, you might be able to see parallelly with this Google Maps API key. Many times what I have found is license key, right? So basically those specific things we will be able to go forward and see here, right? Many times license keys are the things which are already available in the code, and they will be validating whether that particular code is available or not, right? Whether that particular key has been matching up or not. So those kind of things are there, or the list of license keys are available, or the place where they are keeping the license keys are available, right? So those kind of things are very much common within this particular place. So we will be looking into that. So functions, again, these are the resultant functions. The specific exports are the resultant exports. We don't want it. This is the place where we will be looking at, which is functions. Now, based on the application, how much bigger the application is, the functions might be less or more, right? What we'll be doing is we'll be starting up with the main function itself. So here you can see Windows main, right? From the main function itself, and we will go above, because when it comes to our memory address, right, our CPU, it will be starting from the main function, and then it will go forward with that. So right, so basically that memory address will be in descending order, not in ascending order, not like 1 2 3, it will be 3 2 1, likewise. So typically we will be going like that itself. So main function will be just looking at, in we will be validating whether there is anything which is helpful for us. For example, here there is that particular characters, whether there is anything which we are able to find here or not. One important thing here is typically here there is nothing like an automation which we can do. If there are more functions, we need to manually review it, but it will not take us that much time to go forward and identify, because we are looking for that particular data which is easily visible in all of those specific details, right? So basically at that point of time, typically we will not be having that much. We will not be requiring almost like 1 day or even half day to complete this particular thing. It might take us 15 to 20 minutes to complete and see that particular code. But yeah, we will be able to manually look into that. We will not be having that particular type of any kind of automated tools, or even Hydra cannot give us that particular thing, because the sensitive data might be changing from application to application. Somewhere the application, that particular sensitive data might be some kind of user credentials or API keys or tokens or those kind of things, right? So typically it might be very much different from application to application. So that is the main reason why we need to manually look into that. We will just extract each and every function and we will see what actually are the things. Many times what will happen is there will be this type of comments as well. So at that point of time, within the comments also, you will be able to have the good amount of data which will be available. So basically, we will look into that. We will go forward and we will check what actually are those specific things, whether there is any of those specific details which are there or not, right? And based on that, we'll be able to go forward and see that particular result as well, that what actually are the things which are available, right? So likewise, we need to go through manually and we need to check. Now, if we are finding what actually should be the remediation will be same, that there should be removing those specific things. Even when it comes to the application hard coding, okay, there should not be anything within the comments. There should not be anything within that particular data as well. So at that point of time, they should be having some in the backend itself, right? Some kind of separate folders, or within the backend server itself, those kind of things should be fetched on the real-time basis, and then they should be utilizing license keys, URLs, or whatever are the things which they are storing, right? Within the front end of the application, typically there should not be any of the details which should be stored, okay, and validated. Now, why exactly developers do this kind of things, right? What happens is, whenever there is those specific type of things which are stored within the backend rather than front end. First of all, it will be based on the user, right? So basically, if the user is having good connection, it is okay. If the user is having bad network connection, it might be taking much more time, okay, to go forward and do. And if there is no specific network connection, the application might not be usable itself, right? For example, if you open Skype without having internet connection, it will directly get crashed, right? Because it requires the network connection to connect to the server and show you the functionalities. So many times what will happen is, basically many things they will prefer to put it in the front end, so that it will be having a better user experience, the application which will be much more faster. We do not have any problem with that. We have the problem with that whatever they are keeping in the front end should not be containing any kind of sensitive data which can be utilized by the attacker to have a good amount of advantages, right? So those kind of things will be looking at. Now, here, the details will be something similar, right? If there is some kind of key, there will be the specific function, that key equal to something, right? So those kind of things will be there. Where if there is URL equal to this, right? So there will be the specific variable which will be called, right? And likewise, we'll be able to go forward and see. So here there is a bit of a code. We will just review it. Okay. Again, there are those specific variables and those kind of things. So not much for us to go forward. So right, so basically there are multiple functions, but within few seconds itself we are able to review it, because most of the functions will be having very less data, and the functions which are having good amount of data, we will just overall scroll and validate what actually are the things which are happening at that point of time, right? So basically this is how we will be able to go forward and check. Now the rest of the tools, right, where having the dependency, for example, process monitor was there, process explorer was there, process hacker was there, right? Registry explorer was there. So those kind of tools were having that particular detail, where we need to select the Windows operating system to get that particular data and get things, right? But here you can take up within any of the application, any of the operating system which you are having, and you are good to go. You will be able to have this tool up and running, and you will be able to analyze any particular type of those kind of executable file which are available at that point of time. Okay, so this is how we will be able to check for this one. Any doubts, any queries, any questions till now? Anyone?
ऐसा कोई एप्लीकेशन है क्या जिसमें एपीआई की वगैरह लीक हो रही है?
पहले था, पर अभी मैं चेक करता हूँ। अगर होगा ना तो मैं आपको, आप लोगों को असाइनमेंट के हिस्से में भेज दूंगा। ओके, अभी हाल ही में नहीं, मुझे एक बार चेक करना पड़ेगा अपने सिस्टम में। ओके,
ये थिक क्लाइंट कौन सा एप्लीकेशन है?
ये एक प्रोसेस इंजेक्टर मैंने एक डंप करके रखा हुआ था, तो वो मैंने बताया है। सो बेसिकली इस एप्लीकेशन का मेन फंक्शनलिटी ये है कि वो कोई भी प्रोसेस है उसकी सारी स्पेसिफिक डिटेल्स और वो सारी चीज़ें हमें बताता है, ऐसा एप्लीकेशन।
तो आपने बेसिकली एक एप्लीकेशन ये किया ना, इंपोर्ट किया ना इसमें,
हाँ
थिक
हाँ
क्लाइंट एप्लीकेशन।
सही है, सही है। नहीं, कोई भी हमारे पास जो
तो
भी
फर्स्ट
क्लाइंट
डे
का
वाला जो एप्लीकेशन था, डेमो एप्लीकेशन या वनरेबल एप्लीकेशन, उसमें नहीं है क्या कुछ?
उसमें ये पर्टिकुलर वनएबिलिटी नहीं है। जो पिछला वाला जो था उसमें कोई भी एप्लीकेशन में
तो
ये
डीवी
पर्टिकुलर,
डीवीटीए में ट्राई कर सकते हैं ये?
वो हम आगे जाके करेंगे। हाँ, वो तो वैसे भी आपको लास्ट में मिलेगा ही, जो होगा, राइट। जो ये लैब एनवायरनमेंट के जो एप्लीकेशंस है, राइट, डेमो एप्लीकेशंस, वो आपको लास्ट में असाइनमेंट के तौर पे मिलेंगे। ओके, अब बताओ, डाउट्स एंड क्वेरीज?
So, केवल actually I have one doubt is like यहाँ पे आप कैसे कर रहे हो कि you are, is it necessary to go deep dive like plus बटन पे ये करेंगे तो वो drill down होगा और you
हाँ
know
हाँ,
if you click on that plus button
यप,
you know in a function in a specific function for example this ABC and then we have abort so over there probably is it necessary to go in a params altogether or
राइट।
just you know the main one will be sufficient?
Okay. So what happens is this functions, right? If I'm just clicking on this function, it will not be showing me anything, right? I need to go to in this function. But now if I select this one, it is okay. I do not need to go inside that particular parameters because that is already available in the main code. But uh, I need to drop down this one and I need to select this one, and then only I will be able to I will be able to get the code. But I do not need to go forward and see each and every parameter because that will be the same particular code which will be available, right?
Yeah,
Within
got
that,
it.
there will be multiple like parameter 3 and likewise will be available like this.
Okay, do we have any search? This is the search one, right, for this one? So for example if we search with a
Here we
key
can
or
search it.
something.
Yeah, here we can search. You can search for that one, you can search for strings, all of those things you can do. But typically the problem here will be the user functions will not be having the same name every point of time, right? Some of the developers might use key, some of the developers might use a token, right? So those kind of things, because of the change from the application to application, we cannot actually search, and we cannot get. So this thing needs to be manually validated, right? In other
Validated,
places
okay.
where we were checking for those things, right, within the logs and all of those places, there we were searching it, right? But here it is not possible because we are dealing with the code, right? So there might be any of the function which might be available, and if we are searching, we might miss out on some of the things. That's the reason. Okay, any doubts, any queries, anything, guys?
No.
Oh,
No?
nothing from my side, Keval.
Okay. Our next thing which we'll be understanding is thick client misconfigurations, and we will see automated code review. Right. So basically, this is one of the other part, like how we can go for and have the automated code review as well. So I will show it to you guys that if you are getting the thick client application code, how
ये
you
कल
can
देख
go
सकते
forward.
हैं क्या?
कहाँ पे?
पहले ये प्रैक्टिस कर, ये कल देख सकते हैं क्या कि पहले ये प्रैक्टिस करते हैं?
हाँ हाँ, वो तो हम कल ही देखने वाले, आज नहीं देखेंगे। बस आपको अपडेट कर रहा हूँ कि हम क्या क्या कल देखने वाले, हमारा नेक्स्ट टॉपिक क्या होगा। ओके, तो बेसिकली these two things will be understanding in our next session. Okay, for today you guys can practice on this one. I will be sharing you the application and this particular resources. You can practice and you will be able to come forward and have them as well. Okay, so any doubts, any queries, anything for me? Anyone? No?
नहीं,
No, Keval from my
वो
side. Yeah,
एप्लीकेशन
आप
भेज
खाली
देना फिर।
हाँ PPT भेज देना यहाँ पे so that we
PPT
can.
test. Okay, yeah.
Hmm.
I will
ये
understand.
आप पीपीटी है ना, इस पे टीम को बोल के ड्राइव पे भी अपलोड करवा सकते हैं क्या?
PPT ऑलरेडी ड्राइव पे अपलोड तो होती है ना? नहीं होती क्या? PPT ड्राइव पे तो होती है, ये तो अर्ली एक्सेस के लिए मैं
एक
आपको
मिनट
भेज देता हूँ।
हाँ हाँ होती है बिकॉज वो जो रिकॉर्डेड सेशंस है ना तो वहाँ पे PPT है।
ओके ओके।
ओके। और केवल मुझे एक पूछना था, लाइक ये रिकॉर्डेड सेशन सपोज हम हमारे गूगल ड्राइव पे शेयर करते हैं, बिकॉज वी आर नॉट एबल टू डाउनलोड एनीथिंग एज ऑफ नाउ, सो तो वो लाइफ टाइम रहेंगे या कैसा रहेगा?
वो एग्जैक्टली मुझे भी आइडिया नहीं है वो कितना टाइम रहता है। एक्चुअली आप लोगों को
कुणाल, आपको
मैनेजमेंट से
आइडिया है क्या, मतलब इफ यू हैव मतलब पूछा होगा उनसे तो? क्योंकि जो मैंने यहाँ से किया था ना, तो एक बंदे ने दिया था वेब पेनिट्रेशन टेस्टिंग का 2 years बैक ड्यूरिंग अ कोविड टाइम। I still have